On the 25th of November 1953, a match took place that shook the foundations of world football. Its echoes can still be felt to this day, as English football would never be the same. In the lead up to this moment, England quietly considered themselves as the finest national football team around. The inventors of the beautiful game, they were confident in their tactics and physical prowess. They fancied themselves against anyone. But little did they know, something had been brewing in the East. A potent mix of suppressed identity by their Soviet overlords and their scientific method football meant that the Hungarian national team had silently become a footballing powerhouse. And on that fateful day in Wembley, as the English were being run ragged by an approach not seen before, they were coming to that same realization during what has now been dubbed the match of the century. During the game, the Hungarian players seemed to fluidly exchange positions. The center forward would drop deep, allowing wing players to cut inside and overlap. Each Hungarian player knew exactly what to do and where to go and what would happen at every single moment during the match. The English defense was completely pulled out of their shape multiple times by players they had never heard of before, but they still had to finish the match in front of a stunned crowd of over 100,000 in attendance as they watched their team lose 6-3 against Hungary in spectacular fashion. The first home defeat ever experienced by the English national team, the result shocked the nation. After the final whistle, English defender Sid Owen would say it was like playing men from outer space. England captain Alf Ramsey would say it was like playing men from Mars. The innovative approach deployed by the Hungarians had totally shattered the myth of English superiority. This result meant the English urgently needed to return to the drawing board. Meanwhile, the Hungarians continued their relentless dismantling of opponents wherever they went. So which of these nations would reap the ultimate reward in the wake of the match of the century? The aftermath tells a story of unexpected outcomes. This Hungarian side of the 1950s, aptly named the Magical Magyars, is widely regarded as the greatest football team of all time. They easily brushed aside any challenger during the period. They were the first team in history to tactically implement an early form of what we know as total football today. Their star players like Puskás, Kocsis, and Hidekuti seamlessly implemented their roles under the watchful eye of head coach Gustav Sebež. During this time, most teams played with the WM formation, a team with a center forward at the top of the line. Sebež had flipped this concept on its head and invented the deep-lying center forward. Think Bergkamp, Firmino, or Messi. A floating forward totally broke defenses during the period, who were used to marking based on the number appearing on the back of the shirt, and this new number 9 and his strike partners were nowhere to be found. It was as if a mad scientist had been unleashed onto the world of football. It was a slingshot reaction to events taking place back home, as Hungary was in the grips of total Soviet oppression in post-World War II Europe. Football had become the only outlet. The entire nation's expertise flowed into its development, but for Sebež, the real expertise had come from an Englishman, Jimmy Hogan. He famously remarked that when our history is taught, Jimmy Hogan's name must be written in golden letters. Hogan had been the first man to introduce passing and moving, the cornerstone to the Hungarian approach. Sebež and Hogan achieved these golden letters, creating a team now referred to as the Golden Team in the literature of our time. The team became unstoppable, well, almost, because there's a strange twist of fate that seems to occur when it comes to the innovation of new footballing approaches. To understand this, you have to see how the Magical Magyar story ends. See, the Magyars only ever lost one game, and it just so happened to be the one match that would have sealed their legacy as an untouchable footballing force in the minds of people today, the World Cup final in 1956. Up to this point, they had played nearly 70 matches, won 58 of them, and drawn 10. Looking at their match results brings up a sea of green. as Sebes and his squad of experts had simply paraded around Europe, beating everyone. But it seems footballing innovation needs more time to become polished and refined, and unfortunately for the Hungarians, they weren't the ones who would be able to bring it to that point. They lost the final to West Germany, who the Hungarians had already humbled in the group stage 8-3. It had all been part of a bait and switch from the German coach, who had purposely played a weaker side to hide their true strengths from the Hungarians for later. In fact, this German side had been hiding their true power from the entire world, playing just 2 friendlies in the lead-up of the tournament. In the final, one of the key German players, Fritz Walter, ultimately made the difference. For him, it wasn't the first time he found himself playing against all of the odds and coming out on top. He had played against Hungarian prison guards in a concentration camp during World War II. His performances had saved his life then, and this time they were enough to topple the Hungarians right at the death. And remember the English? The ones who were humbled by the Hungarians during the match of the century? Well, they ended up lifting the World Cup in 1966, coached by Alf Ramsey. Remember him? He had been on the pitch during their horrible defeat to the Hungarians, and he was now the manager of the England national team. The shocking loss to the Magyars had sparked a new footballing direction for the English, and they were now reaping the rewards. So the Hungarians were finally defeated. The innovators of world football had finally been toppled. But their amazing footballing innovations would continue to build after they were gone, and eerily, their story can almost be copied and pasted to the men who picked up where the Magyars had left off.
Yo creo que la Holanda del 74 es incomparable. Claro, a mí me pareció que jugaban sin tocar el pasto. A mí me parecía que no, que el equipo antes de recibir la pelota ya tocaba, ya no.
Sound familiar? This is Maradona talking about the Dutch national team of the 70s. It's strangely similar to the way Alf Ramsey had described the Hungarians as being from outer space. Interestingly, Maradona is one of the people who stopped Johan Cruyff and the Oranje at the final hurdle. Amazingly, the Netherlands reached 2 World Cup finals in a row and had lost both of them, one of them to Maradona and Argentina in 1978. If the Hungarians had built the foundations for total football, the Netherlands had become its masters. They were dominating international matches with their swashbuckling approach to the game. Cruyff would famously say the goalkeeper was the first attacker and the center forward was the first defender. In possession, players would fluidly exchange positions on the pitch, and out of possession, they would swarm towards the ball to win it back as fast as possible. The Dutch club sides from this period consistently dominated the European competitions, but it could really be seen with all its glory during the international matches played by the Oranje. The approach swept the globe. From Europe to South America, everyone was in awe of this new style of play. Clockwork Orange, they would be dubbed. But once again, the innovators would ultimately not be the ones to enjoy the fruits of their own creation. Both Hungary and the Netherlands had now taken the world's game and flipped it on its head, raising the bar for the entire world. The 2 highest ranked ELO football matches in history contained both nations. One was the World Cup final in 1956. The other, well, in a true twist of fate, it was the World Cup final of 2010, where the DNA of the Dutch sides of the 70s were toppled by the Spanish, who had perfected the same approach in the 2000s. The Dutch's own invention had crescendoed with the Spanish national side winning 3 major trophies on the bounce, defeating its creators along the way. It seems that in football, changing the game isn't always enough. It might echo through history for 90 years, but it might not get you over the line over the course of 90 minutes. Innovation takes time to be perfected and refined, and often it's not the innovators who get to enjoy its full benefits. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. I really appreciate you watching. I've been blown away by the likes and comments on all my other videos, and I hope you will stick around to see more of these types of videos that I've got on the way. Have a great day, and goodbye.